This is a bit of a special video for a few reasons, but the first one is that this is video number 100 that I've published. So triple digit milestone, pretty cool. Big thanks to all the companies that have supported me and helped me grow this and just do more of this. I enjoy doing the gear demos, so hoping I can do more in the future. We'll see where this goes. So 100's a lot, man. It's a lot of man hours, but second reason I wanted to do this video was because a pair of really special mics. These are a pair of Gefell UM-70s from the mid-90s, and they're special for a bunch of reasons, but I'm going to save that till the end of the video because it's kind of some sappy stuff, so I know a lot of people probably don't care. They just want to hear the review. So I wanted to do a review and a song with these mics because this pair of Gefells came from the very first studio that I worked in way back in 2004, so it's been pretty much 20 years since I started doing this, so pretty cool. But we'll get to these. The video's actually going to focus on a pair of mics from ADK. These are their new Munich 7s. ADK has designed their own, I think it's Mylar M7 capsule. It's transformer based, really good sounding mic. I figured if I was going to do a video with these two Gefell mics, I'd look around for a company that made something similar. Gefell is currently making the UMT-70s, which are the transformerless versions of these. Go figure, the Germans added a T to the nomenclature to say that it's transformerless. It's like the most German thing ever. It's confusing, but the new UMT-70s are very similar to these, same ballpark, but they're transformerless. So I think that these have just a little bit more vibe, and these come from a sweet spot in Gefell's history that I'll talk about later. I'll save that. But I wanted to find a company that was making something similar because the Gefells have been getting pretty expensive. And so I was already talking to Miles over at ADK about something completely different. He mentioned that they had these new Munich M7s, and I was like, wow, that seems like a perfect, at least on paper, kind of comparison to the older Gefells. M7 capsule, these are obviously Mylar. Gefell is actually still making the M7 capsules just like Neumann did. Like, when did they make those? Like the 1930s, 1940s. Those are PVC coated capsules, so a little bit different. I think Gefell is pretty much the only people still making those. Thresh might still do one. I don't know off the top of my head, but doing PVC M7 capsules is really hard. But I think you'll see these two mics are definitely in the same ballpark. So since I was already going to do a whole song with these two mics just for nostalgia's sake, told Miles, hey, if you're willing to send a pair of the Munich M7s over, I'll throw those in as well. So that is what we're going to do. I'm going to do a whole song with both those mics, do a little bit of a comparison, and then we'll have a whole montage at the end. And I'll talk about the Gefells at the very end of the video. We'll save that. But let's just go ahead and start with instruments like I usually do. We'll walk through a few individual instruments, go back and forth. I've got both of those running through the API preamps, and then we'll do the whole song montage at the end. So let's start with individual instruments.
Easier said in sympathies. How do you sum up a legacy? Is all that's left behind. How do you conquer circumstance? Is this the way the torch is passed? Unintentionally. Is anybody ever really ready for this? I think we're all just winging it. Da 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 da. 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 Thought of you the other day. Reached for the phone and pulled away. All habitually. Pain is never linear. Our minds get locked in cycles. It takes time to break free. Is anybody ever really ready for this? I know we're all just winging it. And I keep trying to write this song. It's on revision 3. Well, how do you sum up a legacy in the midst of minor chords? So you force the major lift. Leonard Cohen taught me that. I can't seem to move past cycles in my head. Maybe time will help with that. La da 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 da. La da 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 da. Do 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 do. A blue 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 blue.
At this point, we're going to move to the montage portion. If you've never seen any of my mic review videos, I'll kind of give you the spiel of how I usually do things. So at this point, we've heard both the mics side by side on every single source. Now we're going to do a montage where I do a full mix of the song, and we hear the two mics mix back and forth. A few things. There are full session files that you can download. I have meticulously level matched everything so that when you get those session files, if you use Pro Tools, you can pull up the Pro Tools session. Everything's organized in there and ready to go. If you don't use Pro Tools, download the session anyway. Just go into the audio files folder. You can pull all of those session files out. They're labeled. They're bounced to the grid. Throw them in any DAW you want. So a few things. I think most of the people watching this are probably going to be interested in the Munich 7. Cool thing about these is you can get a pair of these now for the same price as you can get one of the newer transformerless Gefell mics. So after spending about a week with these side by side, that Gefell UM-70 is probably my favorite mic of all time. And I'll get to that after the montage about why that is. But this is extremely comparable. I mean, there are differences, obviously, like you heard going back and forth, but this is in the same ballpark, and there's actually a lot of things I like better about this than I do about the UM-70. So when you're listening back and forth, just kind of think about the Gefell as kind of like the granddaddy. Like this is kind of like, I think with this style of mic, what everybody should kind of be compared towards. It's just a damn good sounding mic. So the fact that the Munich 7 held up with the UM-70, really great. And like I said, you can buy a pair of these for the same price as one of the new transformerless Gefells. So if you can't stretch the budget that far, these are freaking fantastic. So definitely a huge fan of these. Man, kick drum, outside kick. This is one of my favorite outside kick drums that I've heard in a long time. It did really well. It gave me kind of instant like Dave Cobb Americana album vibes for that, kind of gushy, gluey outside kick, but really good on that. So now that we're going to do the montage, what I've done is I've done a full mix of the song. I try not to go crazy on the mixes with these because if you kind of run into a problem where you have to pick one mic over the other to start with, and some of the mix decisions that you might make on one mic aren't going to necessarily work out well for the other mic. So what I do when I do the mixes for these montages is I just do some really basic stuff where I just kind of roll out a little bit of low end. I might boost just a little bit of highs, do like 2 to 3 dB of compression on some things at the most. And then I just have a really nice kind of master bus mix chain where I run them through the console, get like 1 to 2 dB going on the compressor on the API console, and that's really it. So these are just some really basic mix moves across the board to kind of give you a better idea of what these would sound like finished, so that we can go back and forth between the mixes with the exact same settings with everything level matched, so you can hear kind of the whole context of the song at this point with a little bit of mixing going on that's not too crazy. So yeah, let's just go ahead and listen to the montage.
Easier said in sympathies. How do you sum up legacy? It's all that's left behind. How do you conquer circumstance? Is this the way the torture's passed? Unintentionally. Is anybody ever really ready for this? I think we're all just winging it. La da 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 da. 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 I thought of you the other day. Reached for the phone and pulled away. All habitually. Pain is never linear. Our minds get locked in cycles. It takes time to break free. Is anybody ever really ready for this? I know we're all just winging it. And I keep trying to write this song. It's on revision 3. How do you sum up legacy? In the midst of minor chord. So you force the major lift. Leonard Cohen taught me that. I can't seem to get past cycles in my head. Maybe time can deal with that. La da 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 da. La da 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 da. La da 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 da.
If you follow me on social media or have seen anything recently, about a month or so ago, my friend and recording mentor Ian passed away suddenly. Ian was a really amazing guy. When I went to college in 2004, I originally went to school to become an anthropologist. I wanted to major in anthropology. Things obviously didn't go that way. And I'd been playing guitar since like middle school. I'd played around with recording some of my stuff in my room. And so I noticed one of the professors was offering an intro to recording class and owned a studio in town. It's like, oh, wow, that's cool. That'll be an easy credit. I tried to get into the class and he said it was, full, can't take any more people. So I went to him the next day and just begged Ian to let me in. I was like, I'm really passionate about this. It would be fun. Please let me in. So Ian said, well, can you help me out with something tomorrow? I was like, yeah, sure. And so the next day I found myself loading Ian's red Cadillac full of probably about $20,000 or $30,000 of recording equipment. He handed me the keys and said, go record this live symphony orchestra about an hour away. And I was way in over my head. And it was probably one of the most stressful days of my life. But one thing I'll say about Ian is that he had an incredible way of really listening to people. I didn't really realize it at the time, but Ian had really listened to me at that point and realized that I was probably passionate about this. And he kind of just threw me in the deep end to see what happened. And I realized after that first day of doing that recording, which went really bad because I just had no idea what I was doing and it was way too much to deal with. But man, it was this odd mixture for the first time in my life of being really stressed out, but really excited at the same time. It's hard to put it to words, but that kind of just set me off on realizing that maybe I want to do more studio stuff. And the rest is history from there. Ian ended up giving me keys to the studio after the first year of interning with him, and that studio became part of a bigger center for entrepreneurial studies at the college, and it grew a bit. And I basically spent the next 4 years almost flunking out of college every year because I was spending way too much damn time in the studio. So Ian was a big part of my life. Really smart guy. And, he taught me a lot of technical things about recording, but at the same time, I think a lot of the takeaways that I had from Ian's teachings were just things like how to deal with difficult situations, how to deal with clients better, how to navigate tricky situations and egos in the studio and things like that. I learned a lot more from him kind of on the psychological side of things that I've definitely taken away and I think has helped me be successful at this. But that's a whole nother thing. So these two mics, these two Gefell UM-70s, cool story about these. Ian had a few of these mics. I think he had 3 of the UMT-70s that he used in a Decatry that we'd use to record live orchestral stuff. Ian called me up one morning and said, hey, there's a store. I went to college in Wisconsin. He said, hey, there's a store that's got a few really old vintage Gefells for sale. I'm going to drive up there today and grab them. Do you want to come with me? And it's like, man, I don't know. I've got class. Don't you have class today, this afternoon? He's like, oh, I've already canceled class. Why don't you just skip class and come with me? Which was really funny because I didn't know Ian all that well at the time. So it was kind of odd that I had a professor asking me to skip school. So I was like, well, what the hell? I was like, okay, I'll meet you down in the studio about 20 or 30 minutes. He's like, oh, it's fine. I'm already standing outside. And I looked out the window and Ian's standing there waving at me. So we drove down to Madison. We picked up these two Gefell UM-70s. And once we got these, I use these all the time on almost everything. And it's been, 15 years at least since I've really used these. It's been really interesting coming back to these because I've kind of realized that these had a huge effect on how I perceive sound. I've been putting this in front of a ton of sources over the last week, and it's funny. Every time I put it in front of something, I'm just like, man, this sounds so right. This sounds perfect. I think this has just been ingrained into my head as, what a good mic sounds like because I started using them really early in my recording adventures, and it's just, again, it's kind of been ingrained in my brain, kind of like how I gauge other microphones for the next 15 years. But it's really great having these back here. Cool story, because I remember picking them up. So it's a good reminder of Ian and just where I started. And just going off these, again, I just want to come back to the ADKs and say I was extremely impressed by these. So a little bit of a difference. I don't know if you notice with the Gefels have a very unique proximity effect. It's a bit rolled off so that you can really close mic stuff without the low end getting out of control. I think you'll notice on kick drum especially, this is a lot stronger. There's a lot more low end. But on the flip side, sometimes when you get this in closer and like kind of how I had them on the acoustic guitar, I think I appreciated a little bit less of the proximity effect on the Gefells. But overall, I mean, especially when I got to the Montage and listened to them back and forth on the full mix settings, pretty close for the most part. So I just got to say, this is one of my favorite mics of all time. And the fact that ADK got so damn close, and you can get 2 of these for the price of one of the new transformerless Gefells, this is a great deal, and works on a lot of things. M7, I think everyone should have a good M7 capsule. They're very unique. They have a tendency to really kind of sound open, but at the same time warm, and especially on sibilants and harsh stuff, man, M7s treat harsh things so well when you get into like fret noise on acoustics, sibilants on vocals. So I'd give these a try. Really great mic for the money. I think they're like $700 or $800 brand new. So again, a pair is cheaper than one of the new transformerless Gefells. Really well made. Yeah, I know I've done a lot of talking. I try not to do that because I don't think a lot of people care, but I thought it was important to just talk about Ian a little bit, talk about why these mics are special. And yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for Ian. So these are a good reminder every day of just some of the good times, and how I started out doing stuff and how far the adventures come. So I think that's all I've got to say. Thanks.